Good morning. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order this morning. We're here at the Public Works Building for a workshop on discussion on a proposed project at 3114 Highway 98. This workshop is going to be for informational purposes only. The applicant and representatives are here to discuss it, and then we'll open it to the public and go from there. So we'll be a little uninformal and just kind of go right through this. So with that said, we'll go ahead and get started. Lance, I guess you're first one up.
Yes, sir. I'm Lance Watson, Southeastern Consulting Engineers. So what we're doing today, like the mayor said, this is more for just informational purposes, and kind of talk through some issues in the proposal and before the planning and zoning council meeting. But what we've got, and I've got some extra copies of the plans over there if any the layout that goes with the variance application if anyone wants to look at it. So where we're at and how we got here is at some point in history, how recent, I don't know exactly, but the city roadway through the business center was built partially on, the exit was built partially on this parcel. And on the last page of those plans, you'll see it in color, and you'll see it in green. That's a portion of the roadway on the property. And that's 1,628.17 square feet. And so there's two kind of angles of this, and one is obviously that's a hindrance on the property owner on what they can do because the buildable area that they have has now shrunk because of this, but also for the city, it's a liability issue on the city's part having the roadway on private property that has not been accounted for. So the reason for the variance is two things. One is the property owner is willing to deed that property to the city. So now the city right of way is on city property, and in doing that, in order to still get a reasonable square footage for a grocery store, which the city definitely needs and has needed for a long time, the property owner and potential builder owner of the grocery store is willing to still go for a little bit smaller square footage than ideal grocery store, but just needs a little help on these three sides in the form of a variance to be able to grant that, or to give that portion of the property to the city for the roadway. So that's kind of how we got to this point. The request on how far into the setbacks are in the variance application that will be heard next week, and it's also shown the plan, the footprint shown on the plan. But we're available for any questions, and I know there will be a discussion, so I'm here to answer any questions anybody has.
I guess we'll go ahead and open that up to the public to start. If there's anybody out in the public has any questions on it, in this area yet? No? So we'll go ahead and go to the table. So my main point on it is Mexico Beach for the last 6 years, 5 or 6 years, missed out on not having a grocery store. It's something that comes up in every conversation. So I'd like to thank Mr. Durham and Mr. Reed for coming today and also bringing this to us to look at and see if it's something that'll work for Mexico Beach. And I'm hoping that it will. Anybody, any other questions?
I think it's very much needed, and the citizens are all for a grocery store, a larger grocery store than what we currently have.
Mr. Mayor, if you'd like, I'll kind of tell them about myself. So
Absolutely,
some know
sir.
me from a house cat, and others may know me, but I'll kind of give you an overview.
That'd be great.
Going back further than y'all would want me to, but I got out of the military and went to Atlanta to work. Thought I was probably not gonna live in this area anymore, but my father had a heart attack. The family called me and said, "You gotta come back here and help him. He's on the deathbed. You gotta come back." So I came back, got him well after about 6 or 8 months. Gonna leave again. He says, "No," he says, "We've got a piece of property out at Mexico Beach. Let's build a little store out there. You stay here and run that store." So we built what y'all know as Gulf Foods. And it was Fiesta Food Store then. We built it in '72. And I ran it till 1976. And my brother took it over. And A&P closed up, a little 6,000 square foot A&P closed up in Port St. Joe. And so I was fortunate that they set me up in it. When A&P left, Mr. Barrier Senior had the building, had the equipment, and Bobby Kahn out of Pensacola, a grocery guy, wanted to sell groceries, so they said, "Well, look, we're gonna set you up in the grocery business if you're willing." And I think they did it from the head of the draft board kind of led them into doing that part. I appreciated it, but they thought I could handle it, and actually they said I needed $5,000. Well, I got married, depleted all my money, and finally told them I didn't have the 5,000, so they got upset about that, and then finally they came back and they said, "All right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna rent you the building, rent you the equipment, we're gonna stock you with groceries, and we're gonna give you $5,000 for operating capital, and you better make this thing go, son, because we don't lose our money." So that's the way I started. And then I built 10,000 square foot on it, and if you see the Family Dollar store in Port St. Joe, you'll see the way it was when I left it in 1999. When the mill went down, I thought looking farther down the road that this area would grow. A lot of people thought, we were done, chemical plants were leaving, mill was closing up, and I didn't think that. My wife didn't think that either. We thought we would grow and be a different type of town, so we went and purchased a Piggly Wiggly shopping center property, 8 acres, and built a 33,000 square foot store there. And then in 2016, we enlarged it to 49,000 square feet. And then actually in 2005, we built the Blue Water Outriggers next door and all the small shops and out in the out parcel to McDonald's. So I've got a lot of experience in the grocery business. And besides that, after the storm, my son-in-law Ron came to work with me, and actually 5 years ago now, and he was on the steep learning curve, but he's done a very good job with it. And if you go into Piggly Wiggly in Port St. Joe, you'll see we're an upscale store. And if you know anything about prices, and not assume that we're the only store in town and prices must be high, if you actually look, you'll see we're very competitive. Certainly with Winn-Dixie and Publix now. Sure, Walmart rolls prices up and then they roll them back, so it's hard to keep up with their game. But we're very competitive. We know what we're doing, and we buy right. We buy from one of the biggest wholesalers in the country, AWG. They're about close to a $20 billion company, so we buy right. My son Lee runs Blue Water Outriggers, and he's heavy into what we call running a pool report every day and restocking. Now, I say that because when we build this 10,000 square foot store out here, we don't know what we're doing. We're gonna be out of the essential stuff by 11 o'clock every morning. But we're into restocking and developing logistics that will keep product in the store. We will be getting a delivery over there probably every night about 2 or 3 in the morning, and then we'll have a truck that'll run from Piggly Wiggly to Port St. Joe for anything that didn't come in. So that is the key. That's something we can do that probably nobody else could do in this area, especially for a 10,000 square foot store. That's a challenge. It's not our desire to build a 10,000 square foot store. I told the guys to start with, 16 was minimum, and I'd rather have a 20 or 25. But somebody would please show me where we can do that, and I'll be happy, I'll be happy to entertain it, but it's just the space is not here. We've looked for 4 years out here trying to find a place that we could build one, because, ex-mayor Kathy there told me 5 years ago, said, George, we need a store out here, you need to go to work and find a place and build one, and there's just been no place out here to do that. But anyway, and also, in conclusion, I want to say that we're not strangers. The people that I don't know, my son knows and Ron knows out here, so we tend to want to be proud of what we do. We want to please people. It's not like we're coming in here from somewhere else going to open up a store to do business. We want our friends and our neighbors and people we know out here to be proud of what we do, and so you can rest assured we're going to do the very best we can and please everybody out here with the footprint we've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garner. Ron, you have anything to say?
I can't follow that, that was pretty good.
I've got some questions when you get back to the table.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're back.
So, thank you, Mr. Durham. I think the entire community appreciates what you're trying to do here. I do have a couple of questions, Lance. You mentioned some variances. Can you tell me what you expect or predict to have requests for variances?
What's that?
What are the variance requests you anticipate asking for?
So, if you look on the second page of those plans, the first page is just, which is really, the first page really isn't needed for discussion. That's just a demo plan, because we gotta get rid of some sidewalks to add them back to rebuild better sidewalks. But the second plan is actual proposed layout. So the variance request would be for the rear setback along the alley is 10 feet in the land development code. And what's requested is 1.3 foot setback. The western setback in the land development code is 12 feet, corner setback. And what's requested there is 3.2, is the furthest we would plan to go. We could have requested, or we anticipated and originally requested more than that, but we wanted to allow some additional parking spaces back there, so we put aside, we kind of ate into the proposed building footprint to add a little sidewalk on that western side and have some additional parking spaces along 32nd Street. And then the front setback is kind of so right now, the way the property is right now, that setback is proposed at 9.7 feet. But once this, if you look at that next page, that green, the green shaded area is the portion that's going to be deeded to the city. And so that will essentially be a 0 lot line setback after that. Right now it's 9.7 feet is the proposed on the furthermost corner, on the southeast corner. But once that property is deeded to the city, it will be right there by the sidewalk.
So it's going to 9.7, 1.3, and 3.2.
Right, 9.7 as the property sits now, but one thing we'll need to make sure of in the motion, when we get to that point, we're not there now, is that understanding that the new property line is going to be the edge of the sidewalk. So that 9.7 will be different when we move the property line.
Is that the only variance?
That's the only variance. So actually, right now, as submitted, there's two. One of them will be withdrawn. One of them is because we were having issues with impervious area because of the roadway that was taking up the impervious area on the property. And so we were like 92 point maybe 1 or 2%. So there is a variance, a variance request that's been advertised for that separately, but we're going to withdraw that. So what we've done is we have, and there's in withdrawing that, one thing that we'll have to kind of, this workshop's perfect for, and there's a lot of moving parts in this, so that's why I want to have a workshop talk about it. There's two things that would need to happen in order to do that. One would be that the city replaces their portion of concrete sidewalk with permeable pavers, and George and Ron construct their sidewalk out of permeable pavers, And that way we get rid of that pervious area and and that gets us down to 85.75%, the maximum of 90. So as long as we can do that, then we can withdraw that impervious area, exceeding impervious area
Okay.
request.
Where would delivery trucks park?
The delivery trucks would come through the alley and park where we're showing additional parking in the back, and that's one thing we wanted to do. You know, parking is included in the business center, but because what we wanted to do, or what George wanted to do, is add as many parking spots as we could possibly add along the roadway. And so what would happen is the delivery truck would pull down the alley and pull off onto that parking area. But that would be at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. And then, do you anticipate any issues with the traffic sight line based on what the current exit is?
Sir?
The traffic sight line, do you anticipate
Oh,
any
no,
issues
so
with
I
it?
actually, that was one of the comments in the variance submittal.
Mhm.
Well, even though it's not a portion, it's not part of the variance, I do appreciate city staff, I forget who it was that brought it up, asking to go ahead and get ahead of that now before we get the development order started. And so we did do a site plan with site visibility triangles, and that went through, the planning department
Okay.
for review.
And it was good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And then,
It was good in the directions of traffic, so
right,
everywhere the traffic would be, your site visibility triangle essentially is different in the opposing lane than it is on the closer lane. So that's how we did that, sent that in. So that's actually, there's a plan for that at the city. And we're not there yet with the development order, but I do appreciate city staff bringing that up and make sure we don't have any problems later.
and I guess this is for Chris first. Is there a landscaping requirement that they have to meet because they're in the city center, or is that different?
I mean, typically, there's a landscaping requirement, especially on commercial and keeping things divided from differently zoned properties. But due to everything being covered by concrete and asphalt in the shopping center, we don't hold anybody else to
Okay.
do that.
Well, and my understanding is the stormwater doesn't apply specifically to them because the entire area has a stormwater plan?
Not a stormwater plan, but a stormwater permit through FDEP.
Okay,
So yeah, the entire shopping center is covered by the one permit.
all right. Is there any other requirements that we should be concerned about?
Not that I can think of. But if they are, it'll come out during the review process.
Thank you, Lance.
No problem. Thank you.
Jason?
No, just looking at it, I wanted to answer the setbacks, but I take it if this process goes through, the city takes the road property, we're still leaving enough to put those spaces back out front, on down in front of the store, the grocery store.
What spaces?
Parking spaces.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
it'll stay-
they'll just,
Everything will stay as is on the asphalt and sidewalk.
yeah, so that'll just stay like it is.
You're not losing any.
We're not losing any.
Yeah, won't lose anything.
And on the back side of the alley, we have the alley, and then we have our city parking right there also, right there.
Yes, sir. That parking right there, and what we've done on the back alley side is, on the western side, we've added some full space parallel parking, spaces there. On the alley side, we've also added some, compact car and low-speed vehicle, golf cart, that type of thing, parking back.
Any other questions?
So I'm glad Mr. George.
Audience, if you have any questions, please jump in, the workshop.
The delivery trucks on the alley, which route do they take to get going off 98?
I don't have the full survey here.
But
But
they
that
have
would,
to come in by Ace and wrap around?
yeah, coming by Ace and then coming out 32nd Street.
And that won't be affected by the subdivision eventually crossing on the north side of it?
That shouldn't be affected by that. And there's also, on the plan too, we made sure there was room on this western side as well. So there's also room for delivery trucks here. And a lot of the delivery trucks too, and George can speak more on this, but they have warehouses in St. Joe where they'll be stocking this storefront, because there's just not, in 10,000 square foot, there's just not enough room for full stocking room. So a lot of the trucks are gonna be vans or smaller box trucks, or not, there's not gonna be, every truck's not gonna be a big semi coming through.
The only semi would be, 2, 3, or 4 in the morning. Actually, 1, 2, or 3 in the morning in Central Time, out here, and then we'll unload them with a tow motor, so they won't be there long. I mean, they're on schedule, so tow motor gets in, they start pulling the pallets to the back of the trailer and setting them down. Don't know about how long that'll take, depends on how many pallets are on the truck, but it won't be, it's not like we're unloading the case at a time, we're unloading the pallet at a time.
Any other questions from the audience?
I've got a question. You said in the front here, in the green, that belonged to the city and there was a.
It's gonna be
I'm sorry.
deeded to the city.
No. Right, that it belonged to them and needed to be deeded to the city in order for not have, because it's private property, not have possible legal issues or liability issues. Isn't the road on the right side of Ace Hardware, isn't it a private road as well? Is this something we need to be concerned about, having liability issues if somebody was going through there and got hurt or whatever, in the same manner as this?
I think any road would be that, absolutely.
But that's not a private road.
We're talking about it was private property was the reason they were wanting to deed it to the city.
Being private property in that they bought the property and they're deeding it back to us.
Correct, but our road runs there now, and they said for
Correct.
a liability issue, we need to own that. Do we not need to own the road that people go down on next day's hardware?
I
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
already-
logically, if that's their rationale, logically, that would be an issue.
It's a question we can get to our attorney and answer before.
Yeah, I don't think we have that issue down at that end.
No, there's no.
This has only come up after they did a
But if they're
survey.
deeding it over from being a private owner, we'll get some legal.
Yeah, I'm just saying down by Ace, it's not.
No, that's 30th Street. There's no.
But in front of
reason-
Ace, it's still the city right away.
The city's using private property as a street, that's what I'm saying.
All right, your question will be, I mean, we'll get it answered, we'll go with the
I'm
attorney.
just talking about the rationale that they're using to deed this to the city. That same rationale should be used for our 30th Street that we use for people to go around the back in the alley and to the.
I mean, exactly,
The city
it's
owns that.
30th Street.
Yeah.
It's 30th Street.
Rich,
The
if you
city
don't
owns-
mind, just for clarification.
Sure, absolutely.
When Ace Hardware was rebuilt after the storm, the survey that was presented in the development order clearly shows that there is no private property for 30th Street or for the front of the store. No. All of that is city property. So it's different on that end than the end that we're discussing.
Okay,
There is no private
and
property.
we'll get that
The
clarified.
only reason I asked is because I think before the council was told that that was private road, that's why we couldn't have the, Sweetwater go through there, that we have to get permission or whatever.
Okay, question heard, plus all the input, and we'll give it the attorney and verify that we're on legal grounds.
For clarification, 30th Street will remain a two-way street when Sweetwater is in.
30th Street will remain a two-way street.
Isn't it?
Well,
No, 30 is the one way.
Currently,
That's why we couldn't have Sweetwater go through there.
whoa,
Because it was private.
I'm not talking about 32.
Sweetwater right now is being, the 30th Street is proposed being partially two-way, partially one-way, but as far as the Sweetwater development's concerned, we don't need to get sidetracked by that right now because that development is currently working on alternate plans to provide a different access into that property, and that's a few years down the road. So let's just focus on what we're talking about today and worry about Sweetwater later.
Yes.
But we can't
Excuse
say
me.
we're using
Excuse me.
something one
Excuse
way
me.
and
Excuse
not
me.
another.
excuse me. Yes, sir.
Well, I appreciate that desire, however, the current plan shows 29th Street as a one-way street coming to 98.
Sir,
In the
nothing,
event these trucks do come in, off 32nd, go down the alley, they'd be exiting 29th Street in the middle of the night in front of residential property. That's the only reason I think Sweetwater brought up at this time with the current plan that's been presented.
What's been presented from Sweetwater is nothing's been finalized, nothing's written in stone there. They're still developing, they haven't even started the permitting process yet, so that's why I'm saying there's no reason to talk about that. because
Yes, sir, but their preliminary plans did show that, and that was reason for concern, which I think is legitimate.
And it should still be of concern until they come with a final. Ms. Miller, do you have another one to add?
Well, like I said, if you're gonna use a rationale for one thing, you have to use it for the other as well. We were told as a council that 30th Street could not be a two-way street for Sweetwater because it was a private road. That's what we were told. Now, I don't know if anybody's not telling the truth, but that's what we were told. So it's very, very careful in taking the truth as the truth unless you know from the lawyer what's going on.
Doubt it's any lie. Any other questions? Any more at the table?
Just to clarify that for people, the alleyway is gonna remain one way. They're gonna come in on 30th Street, drive down the alleyway, unload, and exit out 32nd.
Correct.
At 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, they're not going in 32nd and turning around. The alleyway flows towards 32nd.
And further back, that's two-way.
The alley?
Right, further back.
Anyway, that's,
I got a question for the attorney. Are there any issues with the variance request for the setbacks? Are we allowed to give a variance for those?
Well, if they're not in the comprehensive plan, which I doubt they are, and they're simply in the land development regulations, then you have a variance test in your code, which is at 4.05.06, and it details the process that you have to go through. I want to remind the council this is just a preliminary workshop. Your P&Z board will be considering this and making a recommendation to you based upon whatever fact finding they're going to do. If and when it comes to you, then you would go through the variance test that's in your code and determine if a variance is authorized from the land development regulations but not the comp plan.
All right. Is that something you can look at before the P&Z? Because I'm sure that's going to be a question.
I can take a look at it, yes, sir.
Thank you.
And also I can take a look at this issue of ownership. I think some, if not all, the council's aware that there is a statute on the roads, which I've not talked about, but that's something that's out there.
Yes. Okay.
Anything else out, audience?
I just have to say, I love the fact of getting a store. We need a grocery store, we need a grocery store forever. We've needed a bigger grocery store than we built food to us for a long time. My concern is you're saying there's nowhere else but this property to put this grocery store. This property came to the council to be approved, to be put together for a possible restaurant. I think we need that really bad too. My thing is saying we don't have anywhere else for a grocery store, a bigger grocery store, the 16,000 square feet plus. I think that's an understatement, being we have so many developing properties, developers around here that's gonna have commercial properties, Sweetwater, Farmdale. You know, those might be better sites than this and get a larger grocery store. Of course, this will, gonna take a couple years probably to get it up and going anyway. Those properties may be developed by then.
Anything else? Anything at the table?
I think in regards to what Ms. Miller is saying, this could be a start, something that we could have more immediately, and then down the road, possibly an expansion of the grocery store to,
I'm thinking competition here. Thank you, as a business person.
Okay. Okay, you have one.
no.
Okay.
So, Dr. Miller, I understand your concern, but I gotta tell you, this is their business. They're the ones putting the money in. And when you look at it from a business standpoint, the other lot's available. There may be another lot available. It may be 10 times the cost and it doesn't make it affordable. So I believe they've looked at this in detail and they're looking at what is probably makes the best business sense and for the community. And so I understand the concerns about the location, but they're the ones who are putting their money into this and the risks. And I think I applaud them for putting this together and coming into town. Sweetwater, they don't even have a development order yet. Farmdale is a long ways away, and I doubt that there's a location there for a grocery store. So I believe what they've said is correct, and I'm quite happy that they're at least looking to put something together. It's been a long time, and thank you for your concerns. Other people have mentioned that to me, but I think you have to trust that they have done a lot of analysis, and there's more to this than just a lot that's available.
Now, this is a lot that's available, and I think it's a good thing to put a grocery store there. I'm not saying it's not, I'm just saying people need to know that it's not, they're not putting it there because there's not any other place. There are other places.
There's no place available currently. There's no place available currently. In the future, when there's more commercial areas, obviously it'll be re-looked at. If they want to go bigger. Any other input? Anything from the council? Anything from the applicants? All right. Again, well, I want to thank you for this workshop. Your input will be looked at, questions will be answered and looked at through our attorney, the legal side of it. Appreciate you coming today. Thank you.